They waited 1 hour, they waited 2 hours, and eventually this Muslim scholar, he arrived. So they started saying to him, what sort of thing is this? You're supposed to be a Muslim. You're supposed to be on time. What sort of behavior is this? So the scholar said, look, I didn't intend to be here late, but what happened was when I came to the river, I couldn't find any way to cross. I walked up the river and I walked down the river and I couldn't find any ferry boat to take me across. I couldn't find any bridge. So I sat down and thought, what am I going to do? And then right in front of my eyes, this tree fell down and divided itself up into planks. And nails popped out from the ground. And lo and behold, in front of my eyes, this boat was formed. It put itself in the river. I stood in it and it took me across. And the atheist said, you don't expect us to believe a stupid story like that? And the scholar said, why not? You want me to believe something even more stupid, that the heavens and the earth and that all the creatures in it are a product of some random event? So thus he defeated them and humiliated them. And this is the supreme reasonable position, that in reality reason does not allow the human being to believe anything else. The only thing they will say is, oh, but you have to believe this because we're human beings. We're human beings, so we have to think like that. Yes? Fair enough. Go and be a donkey or a rock if you want to. We're human beings. If you try and convince yourself that it's anything else, you are never able to be happy. You will never really believe it, because as a human being you can't. So what are their arguments? Oh, there can't be a God because there's so much war and there's so much suffering. How about the disabled people? How about this? How about that? Now the point is this. The point is this. That doesn't prove that there's not a God. That doesn't prove that there is not a God. All it says is that the idea that you have about God is probably the wrong one. And most of the time when I'm involved with discussions with people on this issue, we find that they think that what I am talking about is Christianity. So they argue with me as they used to argue with a Christian. Because Christianity teaches, and here when I say Christianity teaches, I'm not referring to the individual interpretations of some Christians, which may differ from what I'm saying. But broad-based, Christianity teaches, and certainly the Bible says, that God is love. It says God is love. And therefore it becomes a problem when the Christian is confronted by the question of the atheist, well, if God is love, like you claim, how come there is so much disease, and how come there is so much suffering, and how come there is so much pain? And in this regard, the atheist has a genuine complaint. Because this is not compatible. One is not compatible with the other. One is not compatible with the other. But I say no. That the creation of Allah is perfect. And Allah, the Creator, He is perfect, and His creation is perfect. And how do we explain that? How do we as Muslims explain that Allah is perfect and His creation is perfect? We explain that by saying that the creation is not perfect in the sense that Allah is perfect. Allah is perfect in the absolute sense. He is free from all imperfections. He is the all-knowing, the all-wise, the just, the merciful, the loving, and He is also the swift in punishment. And when He punishes, it is perfect. His justice is perfect. His knowledge is perfect. The creation is not perfect in that sense. No. When we say the creation is perfect, we mean that the creation is perfect at doing what God has created it for. It's perfect at fulfilling its purpose. So therefore we say to the atheist, no, what you have misunderstood is the purpose of life. When you complain about death and suffering and earthquakes and people who are born disabled and blind and these type of things, it doesn't prove there's not a God. All it shows is that you have failed to comprehend the purpose for which God has created the world and the universe. It doesn't deny the reality of a creator's existence. It just shows that you haven't understood the reason for which He created everything. So Islam teaches that there is a purpose behind this creation. Reason tells us there must be a creator. I didn't mention the instinctive proof, perhaps we'll mention that later. But how does Islam tell us, and what does Islam tell us, is the purpose of the creation? The reality is that life is a test. Life is a test. This is the purpose of the creation vis-a-vis the human being. That for the human being, life is a test. Therefore, the world is perfect at being a testing ground for the human being. Because within the world is good and evil, happiness and unhappiness, beauty and ugliness, right and wrong, darkness and light. How will you test goodness if there is no evil? How will you know goodness if there is no evil? How will you know beauty if there is no ugliness? How will you know right if there is no wrong? How will you know truth if there is no falsehood? So life is a test. And that is why we find within the world and within the universe, we find it the way it is. We find there is death, there is disease, there is poverty, there is wealth. There is illness, there is health. Etc., etc., etc. Because this is the means through which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing His slaves. And it is also the means through which and by which we can learn the truth and the reality of the Creator's existence. The universe is like a sign, a book of signs, leading us to the conclusion of the reality of the Creator's existence. And also some other things that we can understand about God through the universe and observing the universe. We know there must be one God. And this is a simple conclusion that we come to. It is simple on two regards. First of all, such organization could not possibly be the product of two creators. If there were two such creators, as the Quran mentions, they would have fought with each other and each one would have gone off with what it created. And you would never have been able to find such a magnificently constructed universe. The second is that if we examine the reasoning process that we used before, and we said that everything in the universe has a need. The need that everything in the universe has is the need for something, someone to organize it, and to sustain it and to maintain it. And therefore we can conclude that the one who organized and created and brought into existence the universe cannot be the same as the universe and of the same nature as the universe. If the Creator was of the same nature as the creation, then the creator would need a creator. And then that creator would also need